Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à le 17e et final épisode de la 4e série de Backseat Designers. Et nous sommes heureux parce que les Français n'ont pas élu une putain nazi. Je suis l'homme...
That was perfect, Gareth. That was perfect.
Merci, je suis l'homme qui ne parle jamais, Gareth Millward, et je suis encore ici, comme toujours, avec mes amis formidables danois. En premier, l'homme qui parle très lentement, Frederick Olsen.
Jambon.
Et l'homme qui parle avec grande vitesse, Troz Plymouth.
Je m'appelle Titsis.
Yes, and we're speaking in French because we have a lovely French guest with us today. Well, French-speaking guest. It's not exactly the same. It's, it's basically the same, but it's not quite the same. You know, Poirot, the Smurfs, Jean-Baptiste de Clerfayt. How you doing, mate?
Bonjour Gary, bonjour Truls, bonjour Fred, bonjour Francisco. Je vais très très bien. I'm going to talk in English during this podcast, but your French was marvelous, Gary. Honestly, that was marvelous.
Well, thank you very much. And I don't even mind that you called me Gary.
Yeah,
and we've also got with us a man who is not French, but is an artist, Francisco Gonzalez. How are you doing, Francisco?
Oui, je suis très désolé, je n'ai pas parlé français.
Hey, that's nice.
I am the only one who can't say shit in French. Oh, wait, I can say shit. Merde. But that's about it.
J'adore les pommes de frites et les pommes de terre. Oui. Merci beaucoup.
No, Francisco. Those are called freedom fries.
That's all I got. You exhausted my repertoire. I had one last one.
We are gearing up for a nice little soiree here.
We are.
What am I doing here, by the way? Why am I here?
Yeah, apparently I'm the only one who knows what Francisco is doing here, but I want to hear what the rest of you think before I actually tell you what we planned a couple of days ago.
Well, we've been feuding a little bit with the Blue Cup Tools podcast, mainly because you guys have been stealing our fucking ideas since day one.
You bastards!
How could you? How could you? Well, anyway...
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Oh, he's not denying it.
It's also copyright infringement, mate.
Which is why you guys flatter us to no end.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, applause, sir.
Well, this is probably going to sound a bit awkward, but we wanted to have you on as a bit of a truce, Francisco, to kind of do the Versailles Treaty of adventure game podcasting, so to speak. No one is going to. I mean, obviously, you're the Germans.
You have to take what you're given. Yes. As the historian in the room, I feel like this should move on. We actually brought everybody in to talk about community. Because Jean-Baptiste has very recently put forward a Kickstarter update to his game Lancelot's Hangover, which I'm sure he'll be talking about in a minute. But we were interested in finding out about sort of community, because we met Jean-Baptiste at Adventure X, which was held in sunny London. Before the unpleasantness, and so we were very interested to hear how adventure game communities kind of work, how they work in the physical space, the digital space, and all sorts of things to do with space. And given that we have the Space
digital
Quest story,
space,
I did say
or
the digital
genital space.
Yeah, your mileage may vary.
Fair enough.
Can you do that? Can you do that thing you did before, Francisco, with the phrase "digital space"?
Sure. Okay.
Put you on the spot, performing monkey. Well, since we've got you on...
Doesn't quite work.
Close enough. We got it.
D's and B's are hard on a jar.
No, Florian. We need something else for the first single.
Jean-Baptiste, in the midst of all this chaos, could you maybe explain what game you are working on and why we should all be interested?
So I'm working on a game called Lancelot's Hangover, which has been kickstarted about 1 year ago. The pitch is very simple. You play Lancelot, the British Knight of the Round Table, who's the most sexiest and the most bravest Knight of the Round Table. And your mission, mission from God himself, is to find the Holy Grail. But of course, there is a problem because the Holy Grail is set in is hidden in a very, very bizarre and dangerous place where all men are gay and women have hair under their arms, which is called the Kingdom of France. So this is how it starts. And you will meet different characters like Hipster Jesus. You will find environmental activists, fighting for nature. You will have anger management meetings with violent knights and all that sort of stuff. So it's a goofy, silly comedy adventure game that will. I want to ship it this year. I'm actually a bit late and slow, but I'm learning. Thanks to your podcast, both of you, Blue Cup Tools podcast and Backseat Designer. I learned a lot of things thanks to you, so that's cool.
Thank you. Oh, we're very happy.
I really mean it. Seriously, that's awesome.
You told us in person. I remember that you actually you'd kind of discovered that. I mean, this is not to get self-aggrandizing, but wait a minute, Francisco is here, so yeah, it is. You told us in person that you had really been inspired by the 3-part special that we did on the state of the industry.
Exactly. That was actually. I don't know if I told you. I told Truls that I kiss my internet router every day, which is kind of. But this is true, which is kind of ironic because my internet broke during our first attempt to record this podcast. But
it's probably full of saliva.
I think your internet wants to. Wants to imply a thing or two about consent.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing is that I really love internet, and I really love what you can do with internet. And for instance, Francisco, you told that on Twitter and often on your podcast, is that, for instance, AGS change our lives and every day because I'm really glad, for instance, to hear like a radio show every week, several radio show about adventure games and learn so much. That without internet it would be impossible. Like 25 years ago, making adventure games or even making games when you're just a regular guy in Belgium, it's just impossible. And thanks to the internet, I can meet really great, passionate people. I can go to events like in London for Adventure X or the Adventure Treff Party, and there is also meetings for AGS programmers. So I'm really pleased by that feeling. I don't want to get used to it. I don't want to be like the douchebag in a plane who has high-speed Wi-Fi and complains when it's not working. I want to be the guy who's still amazed that you can have Wi-Fi in a plane. That's marvelous. And I don't want to be blasé, like you say in French.
It is quite amazing. How long have you guys been with the community? I mean, I'm curious now because things have really gotten a lot faster. And this is speaking as someone who might not have been in the adventure game community as long as Trolls or Gareth, but certainly since the start 2000. So I was on dial-up. How long were you guys there?
Well, I was on dial-up, certainly, because I lived in the arse end of nowhere in the UK. So, we had to sort of go down to the well to get your internet from the local brick thing. Yeah,
I remember we got internet in 1995, I believe, because it was just after Space Quest 6 came out, and I hopped on Sierra's old website, and they had a chat, and one of those early HTML chats. It was 1995, so it was Times New Roman everywhere and frames and all of this bullshit. And I signed on as Roger Wilco because, hey, I happen to quite like the Space Quest games. I don't know if you've noticed. And someone in the chat said, yes, I know. Someone in the chat then said, hi, I knew your father. and I was 15 at this point. Hashtag second language and everything.
I was your daddy.
Sorry. I logged on as Roger Wilco Jr. That probably deserves a bit of a clarification there. So that's why he said, I knew your father.
I thought you got involved with Gary Glitter or something.
Peggy 18.
and it didn't dawn on me until like 10 minutes later. Oh, he meant Roger Wilco. Oh, nice. So that was my auspicious beginnings into online communities. I've gotten better since then.
What about our guests?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I've never been like a part of the AGS community. Francisco is like my, pipeline into it. He's got like the password at the door, so he can sort of let me in on the sly kind of thing.
Your liaison, if you will.
yes. Like that Seinfeld episode, where George gets that picture of a cute girlfriend, so he can be led into this this party where all the supermodels are partying. That took for fucking ever to say. I'm sorry. No, please answer the
and
question.
They say I speak slowly.
No sleep at all.
It's. I mean, I love you, man.
I doubt it. No, but seriously, how long have you guys been part of the AGS community, Francisco?
Oh, this is getting moist. So I got the if we're going as far back as like the internet, yeah, like I remember vaguely getting the internet in like 1993 or so, because I know I was like in 7th grade, which would have been about 94 when I know that I was using America Online regularly. And yeah, when I got to college in about 2000, I started Googling just like adventure game creator things, and I found AGS and I downloaded AGS and I started using AGS, but I actually registered on the forums of Reality on the Norm first. I don't know if you guys remember or are familiar with what Reality on the Norm was.
I know.
Nope.
I know the name, but explain briefly, please.
So Reality on the Norm was kind of the first crowdsourced adventure game project. It was started by Ben Yahtzee Croshaw before he left the AGS forums, and the idea was that it had all these free resources you could download. Like he had painted all these really basic backgrounds. I mean, I say basic, but they were good. I mean, they were just they were easy to replicate. Like the sprites weren't really too detailed, the backgrounds weren't either. So the idea was that anybody could download these resources or imitate the style and make their own. And so it was about this town called Reality on the Norm that was sort of like, it was kind of like the League of Gentlemen in a way, where you had like this weird town in England and like all these weird inhabitants. And so the idea was that each person could make a game about these characters or create their own characters and stuff. So it was this sort of little community project that was pretty cool. And I got my start on that, and Dave Gilbert actually got his start doing that as well. And yeah, so I did that. I did a couple of games, and then I joined the AGS forums in about 2001. And yeah, it just kind of got snowballed from there. And then I started going to Mittens in 2004 and like meeting people. And yeah, I'm on Jean-Baptiste or JB's boat here too. I'm like, it blows my mind sometimes when I sit back and I think about like all the places that I've been lucky enough to go to and all the people that I've been lucky enough to meet and stuff, just because of this community and this shared interest. And it's actually really cool. With a few exceptions, like this podcast, of course, but we're not going to go there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Absolutely.
But I mean, it does blow my mind as well, because I mean, we're so tightly knit now that I actually rarely realize that Trolls, Gareth, and I all go back to the Subspace channel, like the early 2000s. That's where we first met, and Trolls and I didn't really like each other's guts back then. I think Gareth was more neutral, as the British now have a penchant for being...
no, I remember. Oh, we should probably mention that the Subspace channel was Jess Morissette's Space Quest forum, and that's where Fred and Gareth and I actually know each other from. As I recall, Gareth was a bit of a troll back in those days, and I was.
Well, I mean, we all were.
And Fred was just this little pissant who went in and fucked shit up for everyone.
That's true. Nobody really liked me, including myself. And that's kind of where some of the odd behavior came from.
Well, I'm interested to. It did get dark pretty quickly. Well, I'm interested to know where JB came from, because one of the things that I think separates the three of us from you two is that we kind of met each other through fan communities more than developer communities, and obviously there's a clear overlaps between those two things. But I wondered
But something that does make us similar to you two is that we haven't found what we're looking for either.
Jesus Christ!
Oh my God!
No, it's way too early for that.
I have no desire to start with this, okay?
And if we weren't having so many problems with Skype at the moment, I would boot you out immediately for that. That is unacceptable.
Okay, sorry, good sir. Do continue.
Jean-Baptiste, where are you from?
Yeah. So indeed, I have a different, I have a different way, because I started, everything started with Tim Schafer making his Kickstarter campaign, because I was a huge fan of adventure games when I was a teen, and I only played that. And after Green Fandango and so-called fall of adventure games, I went to art school and I made other stuff and wrote for a music magazine. So I wasn't really into video games or adventure games. And supposedly I just know about Tim Schafer and Kickstarter, and it really blew my mind. It really changed my life, because I was like, okay, so they're making point and clicks again, and people like it, and there are opportunities to make it. So the first thing I did was Google how to make adventure games, like literally, and all start from that. It's like literally, this is how I knew about AGS. I saw a post, I think from Ron Gilbert or whatever, talking about different engines, and I was okay, AGS is cool, and then after that, it's a very funny story, because for instance, I just Googled like adventure game forums, and the first result was adventuregamers.com. So I just pitched Lancelot with free crappy screenshot and just a few sentences of pitch on the forum, and then a guy from Brazil just PM me like, hey, follow me on Facebook. I'm friend with tons of people in the community. And then I just follow him, and then became friend with other people, and it all started like that. This is why I kiss my internet router every day. It's because it's just, it's funny, because I don't know about you guys, but it's like, when you're teen, when you are in high school, you always like. I was always the guy who was really, really, really into rock and roll music, like doing, like loving going to Britain just to be in front of the Gallagher house, and just you make so many kilometers just to see a door, basically a door, and I was that kind of guy. But in high school, you're the only one who is like this, who is so passionate. But thanks to the internet, you can find other people who make the same thing. I'm pretty sure we all want to see you. We can all do. For instance, when you go to AdventureX, basically it's people who travel all over Europe, sometimes crossing the Atlantic, coming from New York City, or it's sometimes from Argentina, like. Agustin Cordes, just to see other fan of adventure games, just to play games, and this is really, really cool, because it is what I like about the niche. Because, for instance, when I play test Lancelot, it's very hard, because I cannot find good players in my regular surroundings. Even if I have friends who like video games, but they like 3D shooters and all that crappy things. But when you're in AdventureX, the first time I went to it, I just find some really, really, really passionate people who really care a lot, very seriously, about adventure games, especially the Germans, for instance. They really test everything, and you cannot have that quality to actually watch some guys who are very committed, who travel all around Europe to play games and take it seriously, and you learn so much even by their body language. And so this is I'm that kind of guy. I'm very passionate, and And I like passion.
I sympathize completely with what you said about how I mean, I was born at just the right time because when I went to grade school, I was the only dude in the class who played computer games, adventure games, and then Fred and Gareth and Jean-Baptiste, you met Leonard at Adventure X. He was my buddy.
Yeah.
He was my buddy, and Francisco, you will meet him this year. He was my adventure game buddy in grade school, and we were the nerdy outcast. No one wanted to talk to us, so we just swapped floppy disks with save games and shit. And we were like the only people, we thought at least, we were the only people in the world who knew what the hell these games were. And then we got on the internet and we met like-minded weirdos, and eventually started making games with these weirdos.
But that's the good thing, because if you've got people nearby that you can play the games with, or you can kind of go on the internet, it's great because you can just say, well, I can play this game with or without you.
Mm-hmm. And nowadays people will just go, well, fuck you, her emails. But I mean, back then it felt more like you were getting into this circle of reluctant friends, and my story certainly mirrors yours, Trolls, except I didn't really have anyone in real life to share it with, so I was kind of relying on the people online who didn't completely detest this weirdo, which they did, but they didn't get rid of me either.
Yeah, just at first. And also, if you read what you write, you don't sound as slow paced as you do on never mind.
No, I mean, I've definitely grown. I mean, it's interesting to look back and this is something that's kind of philosophical, but maybe something that's fun to get into is that we. I mean, I think you and Francisco and Jean-Baptiste are kind of spoiled because you're a little older than Gareth and I am. I mean,
we're playing the age game again.
Yeah, where's this going, Fred?
You get pills and everything. No, what I mean is it was kind of... it must have been kind of interesting to have enough of a memory of a world that didn't have the internet, and then going from that to being connected to everyone now.
How young do you think I am, Fred?
You're only like 3 years my senior, man. That's nothing compared to the guy over here who's like pushing 60.
Yeah, but I lived in the middle of nowhere. I mean, even like the streets that had no name.
Oh, fuck off! I was going to use that. What?
Oh, he's living at the edge.
Oh god.
Sorry, let's get this somewhere back to on track. I was actually interested in this kind of this internet thing because one of the things that because I have actually been to Denmark and physically met Fred, and while I was there, one of the things that came up with
I don't like how you throw the word physically in there.
I do.
Yes, I have. Yes, one of the... I've completely lost my own flow here, which that's why I need the pills. The point was that we have had.
Just get one step closer and to doing it, and you'll be fine.
You cunt. That's completely thrown me off.
This episode is running to stand still.
Okay, well, edit point. While I was in Denmark, one of the things that came up was the old use of Usenet and those kind of sort of old direct dial bulletin board type things. I take it none of us are old enough to have been using those.
No, I
no.
flirted with them momentarily. Got on.
The thing is, you're old enough to have used them.
Oh, I had the earliest version of Thunderbird or whatever that Mozilla email client was called back then, and it had a Usenet sort of compatibility built in. So I just tried typing in alt.adventuregames, and something actually came up. So I was like, oh shit, okay, I don't know any of these people. I don't know what they're talking about. So when I say flirted momentarily, I mean for like an evening.
Okay.
But I was there. I did it.
Well, I mean, one of the things that does seem to draw us together then is the fact that we sort of started off on forums, but obviously things have moved away from that kind of area. Because I think, Francisco, I kind of really know you more from podcasts and from Twitter, which is a sort of a different form of social media. So I wondered whether actually we used to sort of go to this one place perhaps where you would meet all these people, but now there seem to be a lot of different sites, and I wondered whether you have sort of different roles in those different sites as maybe, a fan or somebody that reviews games or somebody that makes games. I wondered if that makes a difference to the way that we interact with each other.
I don't know. I mean, I used to basically just be on the forums and also mainly on IRC, the AGS IRC channel, which it was funny because the community sort of it had a little bit of an elitist period for a while, because there was basically like the old group of AGSers who were more or less the first ones who would meet up at the first few mittens, and then there was like this sort of influx of a younger generation, and the older people were like, oh, these guys are ruining things, we're going to branch off and make our own secret IRC channel. So then they did, and then there was like the public AGS channel, and then there was like the secret one, and then there was a secret one, and then there was like, it just all went crazy, and then no one uses IRC anymore. Now there's like a Discord AGS channel of like old people and AGS, so it's whatever. But yeah, I don't know. From then, for me anyway, it's sort of just kind of evolved into more of a social media thing with like Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and just connecting to people through that. Because I rarely use any sort of chat program anymore.
Yeah, I think the conversation we're having is actually interesting because, as you say, Jean-Baptiste and Francisco are from the creator's side, and we are sort of from the fan side, and it's all sort of melded together here, on the other side of the 2000s, certainly from 2006 and onwards. Because of the ubiquitousness, that's not even a word. The ubiquitous nature of it is okay, cool.
Ubiquitousness.
Ubiquity.
I love how there was a bit of a Spanish flair to your pronunciation there, Francisco.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway,
that's the Miami accent coming out.
I appreciate that immensely. It made it sound really good.
Yeah, and it kind of
ubiquitousness.
It kind of mixed with the New York one. You sound a bit like an angel from Harlem.
Oh boy!
Can I get off this train now?
I'm just. Never mind. Anyway, please continue.
Sorry, Angel from Harlem.
No, Angel from Harlem.
That's sort of a French thing happening there.
Okay, well, I'm gonna continue this show with or without you. So.
I've already done that one, Fred.
Oh. Yeah, keep up. You didn't catch that. That was a very subtle one.
God damn it, this is going nowhere, isn't it? Anyway, ubiquitous nature of the big old social medias. You got your Twitters and Facebook where people can just meet. I remember as a teenager wanting to get in touch with people who make games. I've always wanted to be a game developer. I just wasn't any good at programming or drawing or anything really. So I was a fan first and foremost, but I like to sort of probe the minds of people who actually made games. And so
it didn't hold back Roberta.
Well, I didn't. Oh, I was just going to say something awful. I'm not.
You're so cruel, Gareth.
I'm sorry.
To be fair, I guess it depends on whether you're into it or not enough to try. I mean, some days are better than others.
Anyway, as a teenager, I would spend a lot of time sort of emailing random people at Sierra because I figured out how their email system works. So I got in touch with a few people there, and this was back, before social media was invented. So now, with the way that the social media sphere works, I can actually get in touch with people who make games and sort of communicate on an even level, and not just be the little snotty teenager who figured out the email address. Hi, you don't know me, but would you like to? But actually, become good friends with them, as I would like to think that I have become with Francisco and Jean-Baptiste and possibly Gareth. Well, Gareth doesn't actually make games, but anyway, yeah.
This is awkward.
So
I'll have you know I made a game, and it was the biggest fan game of its time.
Oh, it
only took 90 years to release.
10. Wasn't it 10? Never mind.
Wait, what fan game was that?
That was Volhall Strikes Back.
Oh yeah, I heard that was even better than the real thing.
Boom!
Well played.
For a guy
sir.
who said he didn't want to play this game,
He's owning at it.
easily. Yeah,
I'm also a pathological liar.
I'll have to admit to sitting on Wikipedia because I'm not really a U2 fan, so I've started something that I'm not sure I can follow through, but I will follow.
Are you stuck
Anyway,
in a moment you can't get out of?
oh god. We're not gonna do U2 songs, please.
You guys are just sitting there hoping for a day without me.
Anyway, Trolls, did you have a question in here somewhere?
No, I just had the observation that the line between being a fan and being a creator has sort of merged to the point where you're on equal footing and can actually, we have had the incredible opportunity to become friends with people we admired a lot. Scott Murphy, for instance, I've had a number of conversations with him, and I used to admire the shit out of him when I was a teenager, and I admired the shit out of Francisco and his games before I even communicated with him and found out that he was a nice bloke who just happens to rip off podcasts. But anyway, we can't hold that against him. And Jean-Baptiste met him at Adventure X, and he was a fantastic dude. Had a lot of great conversations, and I love the way that things are. The community is becoming creators and fans sort of getting together, and the fans can then become creators themselves because the tools are easier, as Jean-Baptiste said. Adventure Game Studio is now finally so user-friendly that even a complete idiot like me can, work the thing. I mean,
it's kind of like creators, fans, and people who are actually qualified to write about these games. People like Emily Short, people like Richard Cobbett, John Walker will all, without hesitation, hang out with you and talk to you at an event like Adventure X. And it's a very passionate community. I get what Jean-Baptiste was saying earlier about passion. You can kind of feel that perhaps as a result of the genre being declared dead wrongly and otherwise several times over the years, we've come really close together because we care about telling stories in this medium.
Well, I think that it reminds me of something that you said in the previous podcast with Jacob. You asked him the question: would you prefer being a guest in the Backseat Designer podcast rather than be on PewDiePie video? And I think that this is very, very funny, because what is special about our community is that people in our community, the point-and-click adventure games fan, most of them only play that kind of game. It doesn't give a shit about other games. For instance, I really don't play any other games. It's always awkward when I say, "What do you make for a living?" I make video games because to be understandable to people. But my mom thinks I'm making video games in general. But I don't care about any forms of games. I will never do another type of games. I don't care. And I think most of us are really interesting by that, and it's very special to our community. And what I wanted to say about PewDiePie versus your podcast is that, for instance, when you are on PewDiePie video, the public is awful, because they're just random gamers who like one type of game and then wants another game and always looking for sale. They're not. I think that's the cool thing about our community, because you can access to lots of fans, nearly 99% of the fans, only by having a few friends. There is sort of small circles, and there is a kind of an echo chamber. So I think that everybody of us know which games are coming, and there is not many teams making games. And I think that's the kind of autistic community and very kind people is really good. And what I want to say about PewDiePie is that you don't care about PewDiePie. You don't care about going global or something. It's the only thing that cares is the niche. And for instance, I don't know if you heard the latest Ron Gilbert podcast about Thimbleweed Park, but he was that was very, very interesting, because he made sort of a feedback of the sales of Thimbleweed Park, and he was a bit after a month it's been a month since the game released, And I think he was disappointed about the sales, and most of it he was disappointed that people who are not in our community, the point-and-click adventure games fans, doesn't like the game. They see the scum interface, and like gamers who are like 20, 23 years old, they see the old scum interface, and they say, I don't want to play this game. They don't care. And I think that Ron was disappointed, and Ron is my god, so I won't complain about it. But I think that it's absolutely, for me, it's absolutely no problem that we are a small niche. Au contraire, the contrary, it's a force. It's a strength for us, because we don't have to deal with all those big things, big events. For instance, Truls, we talk about that in London. It's interesting to have you, Francisco, because you can maybe have a point there. But for instance, a lot of my Belgian, indie developers really. They save a lot of money to go to the JDC in San Francisco, which costs a lot and a lot and a lot. And I don't understand, because having a booth there costs a lot of money, and San Francisco is very, 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 very expensive, and all the travels. And I think that, why do you do that? I mean, if you do point-and-click games, go to London. It's cheap. You have a used hostel, a bit crappy, but for 10 quid a night, and it's really cheap. And then, I mean, I like this kind of less is more philosophy, because I think that you can easily, quote, easily, you can be easily a small fish in the small ocean or small sea. Pond.
Yeah, big fish, small pond.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, than if you do like other genre like a platformer or strategy game, you are just a small fish in a wide, big ocean, and you have to spend so much money, so much effort just to get noticed. That's cool with adventure games. You can get noticed quite easily just by going to the forums. This is my story. I mean, I just Google adventure game forums, and then put my stuff, and then you slowly get noticed, and everybody knows each other, which is interesting.
Can I build on that?
Let me just note that here. Well, I'll get back to you, Trolls, but let me just note that hearing you talk about the community, Jean-Baptiste, fills me with a lot of pride in the name of love.
Of course.
That's belated.
No, I'm actually sincere. I had to get that one in, but it kind of fits because it's the truth. I mean, that was I can hear the passion, and I agree completely. What did you want to say?
Well, you can get lost and disorientated in GDC. It's enough to give you vertigo.
I don't know any U2 songs or any Police songs, so that's why I don't like this game, because I don't listen to any of these shitty bands. I hate them.
You don't even know one?
Well, I know Roxanne and that tune that U2 did for that Batman movie. That's about it, really. So anyway, no, I wanted to get Francisco's perspective on something, because what Jean-Baptiste said about adventure games being like a small pond, and everyone sort of has it's easy to get noticed because everyone is sort of friends with each other, and if they're not, then they soon will be, because we're all into hugs and kisses and all that stuff. There used to be a time, and we're all old enough to know this time, back in the early 90s and late 90s, adventure games were huge. They were the AAA titles. They were the Assassin's Creed and whatnot, and then they
silver and gold.
And then they were declared dead, unfairly, of course, and then they sort of have had this resurgence started in 2006, possibly by Dave Gilbert, and now we're sort of into this. That was a joke. And now we're sort of into this second age, where it's kind of like Jean-Baptiste was talking about music, so I'll put this in sort of a musical metaphor. You imagine this artist who was really big in the 80s, selling out Wembley Arena and all this stuff. And then the career kind of goes on a downslide and no one pays any attention and they fall into obscurity. And then all of a sudden they sort of find a new sound and suddenly they become hip again, like 30 years after the fact. But now they're not selling out Wembley Arena. They're just, selling out all the, the clubs. They're carrying their own gear now, but they're still, fired up and passionate about it again, even though they're not being played on the radio. That's how I see adventure games now. Yeah. But I'm interested in Francisco's perspective. That was my perspective as a fan, not as a developer. So what is your perspective of this resurgence from a developer's point of view? One who is instrumental in the second wave of adventure game thing. I lost my phrase there. Yeah, one who makes games now, currently modern adventure games.
Well, I have a lot to say, but first I'll start off by saying that I think it is really important that we have this sense of community because sometimes you just can't make it on your own. The other thing is,
I don't like any of you. You can all go to hell.
Well, then you should exit.
I mean, I think the more I hear about it and the more that I've been lucky enough to talk to people from that era, not to do a shameless plug for the Blue Cup Tools podcast, but we just had Brian Moriarty as a guest on our last episode.
Yeah, and it was genuinely very good. You should listen to it.
Yeah, I've spoken to him about this sort of thing, and I've spoken with a few other developers from the old days, and I think that there's kind of this misconception about how well adventure games did back then. Sure, they were a lot more popular, and in a way they were kind of like the big AAA titles. But I think more than anything, Sierra used to use them for just sort of showcasing the new technology of the age, like CD-ROM and sound cards and things like that. But the reality is that Sierra outsold LucasArts, which obviously are the two, they're considered the two giants of the time. But Sierra would outsell LucasArts by quite a significant amount. I mean, LucasArts, I think Brian said that the first Monkey Island only sold 30,000 copies or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, they were not big sellers. They're considered legends now, but they actually didn't sell that much.
But at the time, they really weren't. So it was kind of a niche market at the time as well. And so they, with the advent of 3D and everything, and the adventure games couldn't keep up. So other genres became the sort of technology showcase thing. And I think they were more popular because I guess they were more accessible in a way. But yeah, I mean, now with this quote unquote resurgence, which I don't really like using that term because it's not so much. I mean, if we're going to say it was a resurgence, then we have to look back to the early 2000s. But people who are like, oh, this 2017 is a great time for adventure games with Thimbleweed Park and Full Throttle. No, it's not. They've been back for ages. But I actually think that with things like Kickstarter and Steam and social media now, it's possible that adventure games are actually selling better now than they did when they were back, than the big companies were.
So you're saying it's a sort of homecoming.
I was going to use that exact one. I was going to say we've had a sort of homecoming. But that's okay.
You guys are just too good at your own game, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, something like that. Yeah.
But I do. But, I agree. The whole resurgence thing is kind of a weird, because Ron Gilbert said that adventure games never really died; they just went on holiday in Germany.
Sure, exactly. Yeah.
But the amount of people who play games has grown exponentially since the 90s. So what we would consider a good seller in 1995 is peanuts compared to what Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty and those games make. And so adventure games probably still sell the same amount that they did in the 90s. It's just that the huge gamer sphere is so gigantic now that's just a drop in the ocean at this point.
It's a smaller piece of a much larger pie. Yeah. It's not. That's not. No. That's a genuine. That's not a YouTube.
Okay.
That's a genuine point.
Every time someone says something that sounds suspiciously like something Bono would write, that this is collective groan.
Yeah, but what I was going to say was not to. I mean, in keeping with the tradition of your podcast and relating this to the Dig, the Dig was actually the best-selling game that LucasArts ever put out, which is kind of strange considering that it's sort of their more obscure title in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's just that. I guess it has something to do with the production values or something. I don't know, but
it had Steven Spielberg's name on the box and famously racist the author's Orson Scott Card.
Yeah, I think that probably had a lot to do with it. But another point I wanted to bring up was to sort of play devil's advocate to Jean-Baptiste's point about GDC and stuff. Like, for me, living in the U.S., GDC is actually much more affordable than, say, something like Gamescom, just for travel purposes. I mean, obviously, GDC tickets are ridiculously expensive and overpriced and not made for indie developers. But that's why I find little tricks like, speaking at GDC or sneaking my way in the better way to go, because that they give you a free ride. But yeah, like the
hand jobs in the parking lot.
Sure.
All around.
I thought you didn't know any U2 songs.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway,
I think that's a George Michael song, actually. They did a couple.
It's definitely
I was going to say that might be a little libel in that one.
Anyway, yeah, I think it just depends on the conference. I mean, obviously, there's a big adventure game contingent at Gamescom. Like, I've always wanted to go to Gamescom, but it's just kind of out of my price range because it's in Europe in the summer, which is when it's like the most expensive to get there. But I mean, GDC, a plane ticket from here to GDC is like, $200 to $400, which isn't insane, but it's all right. It's doable. And like, yeah, the San Francisco is expensive, but it's the thing with conferences too, though. Like, it's basically their social events. Like, anybody who goes to a conference to actually legitimately think, oh, this is going to help me. Like, you can make contacts and stuff, and that's valuable, but it's really just a social thing to hang out with people. And Adventure X more than anything else. Like, I love Adventure X, don't get me wrong, but it's totally like a self-indulgent thing to just go to London for a weekend and hang out with other people that know my work and like adventure games and stuff. Like, it's a great time. I love it, but it's not something that's like, yeah, I definitely have to go here because it's going to help me, because it's not like if I announce like I don't want to sound like I'm an asshole saying this or like full of myself, but it's very unlikely that the people at Adventure X are going to say, oh yeah, I'll buy this game, because they probably already would because they like adventure games.
Well, it is
brilliant. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this bit out, send it to Alistair, and he can put music on it, and they can run it as an infomercial.
Don't go to Adventure X, it sucks.
That was one of the points I was going to make, actually, it seemed to be one of the things that obviously our good Australian friend,
thieving cunts owe me money.
The guy from Van Diemen's Land, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Pointed out to us, Sean, that how many people who are sort of part of this very close-knit community actually stump up cash for games. I mean, do we have any kind of feeling on that?
Well, I mean, I don't think that. Oh yeah, I mean, there's the whole issue of like how many of these people actually buy the games. But I'm not saying that the people at Adventure X are not going to buy the games, or they're like not adventure game people. But what I'm saying is, like, as from a marketing point of view, like if I go to some place like GDC, I'll meet people and be like, oh, hey, look, I'm making this game. It's an adventure game. Check it out. Whereas if I go to Adventure X, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm making this game. It's an adventure game. Of course it is, because I'm at an adventure game conference.
Yeah. You're not converting anybody. You're not converting a non-buyer into a buyer.
It is a preaching to the choir sort of affair. I mean, I went last year to see if Dave Gilbert would, scoff at me and,
I think I was
he thinks I'm a bit of a weirdo.
I was the scoffy.
It turns out he's way too polite for that.
Except when you stick a recording device into his face.
That was not good. Yeah, that is not on me, by the way.
Oops.
But the other thing, just
It's
as a brief
technically
point,
not on me either. I had Gareth do it.
you can find pretty much everybody anywhere, because I mean GDC actually has a narrative games summit where they dedicate 2 days to giving talks about narrative games, and we have an adventure party where we adventure game fans get together and we have a pretty good turnout. And I mean, Double Fine is right near there, and Ron Gilbert usually comes because he's in Seattle, and Dave Grossman always shows up, not to drop all these names, but like we get a pretty good representation of.
And of course there's me.
Ken Williams' beard hangs out in the bar.
We had Ken Allen show up once, and I didn't realize it was him, so I didn't talk to him. But yeah, he's like one of the few Sierra people that have ever shown up. Anyway,
Ken is really nice. I mean, Trolls and I have met Ken.
Yeah, he was wearing a really cool tiger print shirt, or it was like a shirt. It wasn't a tiger print shirt, but it was a shirt with like little tigers on it.
Well, he is in Las Vegas, and it's the desert country. People get
that
sort of.
Sense.
If you can't find an oasis in 15 minutes, you start buying weird shirts, and dehydration makes people do weird things.
Play
Actually,
blackjack.
Could I just before we get before it becomes all too merry and happy and joy all around, hugging some trees? Can I just
joy all around?
I think I should stop being weird to Dave Gilbert and actually reference something that he said, the smart man that he is. Are you guys, and I'm looking at our two developer interview pals here, are you, what's your take is probably the right about adventure games being this echo chamber, because there is, like we touched upon, there's a greater gaming community now, and there's a lot more people playing and buying games and all of that. And adventure games are sort of this niche market, which, if I'm reading Jean-Baptiste correctly, that's a good thing. It doesn't need to be, a big top triple A seller or anything, but it does run the risk of becoming this sort of self-masturbatory echo chamber kind of thing, where everyone knows each other.
Wrong with this.
Giving each other reassurance. No, I don't see anything wrong with it either. I just want to get you guys' perspective on it.
Surely we all masturbate.
Yes, but we don't rely on adventure games to make a living. So maybe that's fine for us, but maybe Jean-Baptiste and Francisco have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, and don't call me Shirley.
Wait, I understood that one.
I don't think Bono wrote that line.
But Boner did.
Or is it Bono? Is it Bono or Bono? I know how you pronounce his name. It's fucking cunt. Anyway, you were saying.
Well, I think, as Gareth said, the whole thing is how to deal to make a living out of this. I mean, the only important thing is that how much it costs to make a game, and how much if you have enough money to keep on doing your stuff, that's great. And I think that of course that's a problem, because I don't think you cannot make a point-and-click adventure game with 1 million euros or $1 million and get your money back. It would be very, very difficult. I mean, even Ron Gilbert has difficulty to get to break even to get his money back. But because note he made a Kickstarter, but he also had $500,000 from private investor, capitalist, and he. According to the broadcast, he didn't break even yet after 1 month. But so my point is that, for instance, for me, I mean, I have enough money to keep on making games. So, I mean, let's be frank, I'm certainly not rich, and I have to make a sacrifice to, I live in a very, very cheap apartment and stuff. So, but the point is that, I mean, you don't care about. Actually, you don't care about production value, because adventure games, it's about puzzles, it's about narrative, it's about cool story, it's about humor, it's about, and all those money. I mean, it doesn't cost a lot of money. You can make a great adventure game with not much money, and I think that it's actually sort of a challenge. I mean, I don't say I'm achieving this challenge, but I want to achieve the challenge to make something cool with very, very cheap money. And I think gamers doesn't care. I mean, for instance, Widget Eye make a really, really, really great job because, for instance, the Blackwell series are really awesome, but
the voice acting's not great.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No, but I really love Dave Gilbert's philosophy. In Adventure X Talks, he said that when he started, he has like 4 months of living, and he had 4 months of make a game and to ship it, and he made it. And I guess he has enough money to keep on living, and that this is all you need. I mean, success is relative. I mean, and again, it's a challenge to make something cool with less money. I mean, it's very easy to make a great game with $1 million. Well, I'll say that I don't know, but it's because obviously money is always a problem. Again, it's funny because we had an interesting conversation, Truls and I and Ron Gilbert, because I don't know if you remember, Truls, but one time Ron Gilbert was very anxious about releasing his game, and he said, I'm not gonna make it, and then you retreat him saying that, of course you're not gonna make it, and you have like 100K of followers on Twitter, and after that, on the conversation, I just asked him with kind of an idea behind my mind. I'm asking, but is it? I guess it must be easier. You have like so many years of experience. You crafted the genre. You invented the genre. Why is it more difficult? I guess it would be easier by the time. And he replied, no, it's getting worse and worse and worse because he has a huge budget, he has team members to pay, and I think money will always be the problem. And it's indie game is always you have to deal with it. So whatever the budget, so try to have a very low budget because you have nothing to lose. I mean, who cares?
That's an interesting point. I think, I'm actually going to put that on to Francisco. What do you think? I mean, for one thing, I know why Ron Gilbert did not make his money back in the first month, and that's because Thimbleweed Park was and is a nostalgic game. It's a throwback. It is not what you would call a modern game, not even a modern adventure game. I know Dave Gilbert. Why do I keep bringing him up? He's a very nice man. He doesn't deserve this.
We have two Gilberts. At some point, we're going to get him awfully confused.
Yeah. I mean, one of the few things that you can say to Dave Gilbert to make his piss boil is to say that his adventure games are throwbacks and relics and nostalgic and all that, and he will absolutely flip his shit because he's making modern games, he's making current games, contemporary games. But Ron Gilbert apparently also has this idea that there's a gamer market. There's not just the adventure gamer niche market, but there's the broader adventure game market. And I think he sort of had the idea that Thimbleweed Park would penetrate the bigger market, as it were, go beyond the borders of just the adventure game niche market. Because
it's not going to happen.
No, but I would assume, and I know that's a dangerous thing to do, but I would assume he would think so because he's Ron fucking Gilbert. I mean, his name means something. I mean, everyone knows what Monkey Island is, even if they're not into adventure games. They know what Monkey Island is. Yeah. So I'd been interested to hear, Francisco. You making your adventure games, do you want to break into the larger gaming market, or are you just happy to be the fish in the pond, or do you want to get out into the open sea? And furthermore, do you think it's even a good idea for adventure games as a whole to sort of try and crack the market, or to stay in their corner?
Well, there's a couple of points I want to address before delving into that. One about the breaking even thing. I think, and this is one of the reasons that I've always been so averse to Kickstarter, is he hasn't broken even in a month because all the money that he got from Kickstarter was probably from the majority was from all the people who said, "Oh my God, it's Ron Gilbert. He's making another game. I'm going to give him my money." And then that's not a sale. That's a backer. So if he's relying on people who didn't back the game to buy the game, that's a significantly smaller market already within the small market that he's depending on. So that's always been, I don't know if, I don't know the logistics of it, but to me, it's always seemed like if I do a Kickstarter, the people who are going to support it and who I'm going to have to provide the game to are the people who are going to back it. And that's the money I'm using to make the game. So that's my investment. I'm not making that back because the sales are gone because those people are not going to buy the game again once it comes out because they've already got their copy.
Yeah, they got theirs the first time.
Exactly. So I hope that wasn't a YouTube reference.
Yeah, that sounded suspiciously like it should have been, but it
should have been. But I don't know. Anyway.
It was.
Okay, good. So there's that. The other thing is, I would like to break out into the more mainstream. In fact, that's what I'm trying to do with my current game. I'm actually hesitant to call it an adventure game. I've been calling it a detective game because for those people who are hardcore adventure game fans and who love adventure games and who love, puzzles and stuff like that, they're probably not going to like it because it doesn't have traditional adventure. I mean, my thing has the games that I've made. The biggest complaint that I've heard from the so-called hardcore fans are that the puzzles are too easy.
Echo chamber.
Exactly. So I've kind of wanted to see about taking people who, when they hear adventure games, they think, "Oh, I hate adventure games. They don't make any sense. The puzzles are illogical. There's mazes and stupid things in them." And I want to show them that that's not necessarily the case. And
all the things I hate and Ben loves.
Right, and just kind of get those people interested. But yeah, I definitely think there is an echo chamber of the problem is, and I think that you guys kind of covered this when you were talking to Sean and you did those 3 episodes, is that there is that echo chamber who they want the old games, but they don't necessarily want modern games that are like the old games. Yeah. If that makes any sense. Like
right. Like being stuck in a moment you can't get out of.
Oh, well played. Well done.
Although very appropriate, yes. Good job. Yeah, I mean, like, with Order of the Thorn, like, people who are hardcore King's Quest fans... and there they go. They've been listening. They sent their attack.
They're on the move.
That was the sound of Sean launching a thermonuclear device in our ranks because she said King's Quest instead.
Right. But yeah, like people who would want it like a classic King's Quest game, but they don't want something that's not King's Quest. So that's maybe why the Order of the Thorn to the Echo Chamber wasn't as appealing, I mean, I played it, I enjoyed it, I thought it was a good game, I bought it, You're welcome, Sean.
Did you buy it?
I did not buy it in a bundle. But
that's because it'll never be in a bundle.
Yes, you're right.
Until next week or so, probably.
Yeah. But I mean, as a developer, like I'm on the same boat, like I am trying to make my living off of this. I just so happen to live in one of the most expensive cities in the United States for some reason. But, my first commercial game wasn't a hit by any stretch of the imagination. If I had depended on that solely to make my living, I would not have been able to make it. I was very lucky that I was hired on a salary to work on my next game.
Sometimes you can't make it on your own.
I said that one already.
I mean, at this point, I don't give a shit. If it works, it works. I'm just tossing what I can to the wall and seeing if it sticks.
Yeah, put your pants back on.
It's like a picture game design. Anyway, so you're really only as good as your last game because you have to depend on your funds from your last game carrying you over through to your next game, which is kind of why it's good that adventure games don't necessarily have to have high production values or high costs to make, Because, I mean, you do want to make your games work for you. I mean, like Dave, for example, he makes it his living because he has 15 games that are earning him money every month because of the ones he's made and he's published. So, the goal is, I read something on Twitter recently or somewhere where someone said something like, build up your catalog first and foremost. I think it was actually Tim Schafer, maybe I'm misremembering completely, but someone
he was quoting Dave Gilbert.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding, but I distinctly remember Dave saying that in our special episode, and it's actually that's one of the things that I took away, going, why didn't I see this before? Because
Yeah. So the basic stepping stones is that, like, build up your catalog, because you're going to your first game's never going to be a hit unless you're extremely lucky, and so you want to have these games that are bringing in money for you so that you can continue to, get better and do better things, and then hopefully keep that going. But, even Ron Gilbert, even someone like Ron Gilbert, he had his moment. He's still trying, but he's not guaranteed just because he's Ron Gilbert. I mean, his name can get Kickstarter backers, but I don't think it can necessarily equate to enough sales to make him rich. I mean, you're never going to get rich making adventure games. Let's face it. You're never going to get rich making games, period. But that's why you got to do it, because you love it.
And that's back to the original question. Would it make sense to break out of the pond because that's where the money is, or would it make more sense to sort of cater to the pond and just convince them?
I don't think it's a good idea to cater to anyone. I mean, it's
wrong choice of words. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have that fan base, to have the adventure game fans, because they're probably more likely to buy the game. But I think it's not a good idea to limit yourself so that only they will get enjoyment out of it, because that's pretty much just dooming yourself to only have that market.
But that's what I think Ron Gilbert inadvertently did. He was.
Yeah, that's the impression. I mean, I haven't played Thimbleweed Park yet, but from what I've heard, it's kind of like, okay, this is not what I was expecting. But
it was exactly what I was expecting. It was like stepping into a fucking time capsule.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a difference between stepping into a time capsule and stepping into a time capsule where every 5 minutes they're breaking the fourth wall and saying, "Hey, isn't this great nostalgia?" Like, there's great ways to recreate nostalgia without beating you over the head with it.
Yeah, it's very, very self-referential, and I still haven't completed it, but I'm sure I will at some point. But what bothers me about it is something reviewers have also noted, which is that you control 5 characters who don't really have any bond going.
Right.
That was my review.
Yeah. I said some reviews have noted, but I'm not going to give you any clicks.
God damn it.
What I mean, I think
SpaceQuestHistorian.com.
Yeah.
Buy a T-shirt.
YourInevitableDoom.com. I think it's sort of ridiculous that the game will continually bash you over the head with, "Oh, isn't it great? It's just like in the old days." Whereas you had a game like Day of the Tentacle, which took the multi-protagonist approach and just honed it to perfection. And this game doesn't really get it right, in my opinion.
You know what? Just for the record, I actually enjoyed the hell out of Thimbleweed Park, but I do recognize that it is a game.
I'm also enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot, and it's giving me a lot of laughs. But if we can't be critical,
oh yeah, sure,
then we get the echo chamber.
The thing I thought was funny was that with Dave Gilbert saying things like, we should be contemporary, we should be current, all this nostalgia crap has got to stop, and then you've got Ron fucking Gilbert coming out with a game that belongs in a museum. I just thought that was funny. It's ironic in a way, actually. But anyway. Yeah,
well, lots of Gilberts.
It's also made very well. Sorry to interrupt, but it's I think it's simple with
you're here too.
The four wall jokes and the constant reference are also made on purpose, because it actually. I know you're not big fans of fourth wall jokes, and you made a very interesting podcast about that. But I think that in the case of Ron Gilbert, in the case of that game, it works very, very well. It's I won't spoil anything, but so it's difficult to continue. But it's on purpose, and I think that it's a bit like the end of Monkey Island 2. it's obviously breaking the fourth wall, but it's made very, very, carefully and very in sort of a clever way. And I think that about Thimbleweed Park, what I really love about it is that it limits its audience. I think that if you want to please everybody, you're not pleasing anyone. And I think that Ron really nailed it, because he made the best game ever. When I play Thimbleweed Park, I just feel back all the greatness of what I love about adventure games, and I'm pretty conscious that people don't like it because they don't have that nostalgia. But who cares again? Because I think that's it's better to be that only a few people really loves you and follow you and will buy everything that you do, rather than to please anyone. And then if you please anybody, you like it. People just when they finish your game, they go to another game and they don't care, and and I know that's my point, and this is probably radical or something, but I don't know.
I think it makes sense.
The way you said please. When I'm looking for people to please me, I just look to Fred and let him out of the cupboard and give him some coconut oil, and off we go. That's
lovely.
Yoink.
Well, I kind of agree with that as well. I think by the time you finish the game, a lot of that fourth wall stuff comes together in a way that looks out of place as you start off. So Fred, finish the game and then come back to us. Although I do agree with you that it is very annoying. So Jean-Baptiste, thank you very much for coming along. You do realise now that you've got an insight into what's going to happen. You're going to release the game. We're going to be very, very mean about it, but then say it's great afterwards. So this is what the community is all about. Jean-Baptiste,
community.
Do you have community, mate? Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I had a very, very great time, a great talk. It was very pleasant to. Again, it's marvelous to be in my apartment and to discuss about adventure games with two guys from Denmark, one guy from Britain, and one guy from New York City. It's I often think about the 1992 Jean-Baptiste who play adventure games, and I think that if we were back in the future and I can meet my today Jean-Baptiste self, that would be, this is the perfect life. I love this community, really. I don't know why, but I love you guys.
You're just a fucking ray of sunshine. Yeah. Give me a hug, you big French bastard.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not fucking French. You keep ruining it with your petty racism.
I'm sorry.
Give me a hug, great. Jean-Baptiste, where can people find you on the interwebs, and where can they find details about your game?
Okay, I think that a good way to start is to go to my Kickstarter page and read the updates. Everybody knows that I really put a lot of efforts to make a good update, even if they're not coming too often. But so start like Lancelot Hangover Kickstarter. You can start with that. Of course, I've got a Twitter account. It's Lancelot_game, and also a Facebook page like facebook.com/Lancelot Hangover in one single word. And basically, if you type on Google, you will see myself, and just really drop me a line. If you want to contact or whatever, I'm always pleased to talk to other fans and other adventure gamers. So, feel free to drop a line.
Brilliant.
Nice. I look forward to more smoke breaks with you at Adventure X this year.
It will kill you.
Everybody enjoys a fag at Adventure X. And speaking of that, Francisco, that probably needs translating. Where can people find you, Francisco, on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Grundislav Games. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Grundislav Games. And you can go to grundislavgames.com and check out my games, including the one I'm working on currently called Lamplight City.
Oh, and we played that at Adventure X, and it's very good. I hope it comes out soon.
You did, and you broke it.
I
You
did
broke
too.
it, yeah.
We did.
Technically, someone broke it for us, didn't they?
Yeah,
I mean, we just rocked up to the screen and it was frozen, but it was too good a gag to miss up.
Well,
so.
it was on a Mac, so who knows?
Yeah, that's
Well,
But yeah, I really I wanted to say thanks to you guys for inviting me on, and as a token of my appreciation, I actually got you guys a present.
Oh yeah.
So here,
presents.
yeah, here, take this present. Don't mind that it's ticking. That's just because it's an alarm clock. I mean, I know I spoiled it, but
I love alarm clocks.
yeah. Just,
This
just
sounds
hold
awesome.
on to it, and
It's a huge hobby of
Jean-Baptiste,
mine.
come with me. Let's go over here for a second, and we'll just leave these guys.
Oh yeah, great. Okay, well, while those two wander off into the sunset, we're recording this obviously on a Thursday evening. It will be released on Sunday, bloody Sunday. You can find all of the information about this episode on our website, and we'll put all those Twitter links and everything on backseatdesigners.com. You can also find our Facebook page, which is on Facebook. Search Backseat Designers. We're on Twitter at BS Designers, and you can go to our Patreon fund, which will be used to fund our 5th season, which we will be doing at some point. But this is unfortunately the final episode of the season, and that ticking is getting quite loud. Trolls, what are you doing with that, man?
I am not doing anything. I just experienced some lag, and I just figured I wouldn't say
Guys,
anything.
while you're bitching about Skype,
maybe
what's
the package
up-
is causing
what's-
some interference.
What's up with this ticking? You know, it's fine. He said it was an alarm clock, right? But you know, speaking of the whole YouTube thing, this reminds me of a title of an album of theirs. I can't really remember what it was. Something about how
No, just give me the box
how
cutter.
to dismantle an atomic bomb.
You got!
Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of season 5 of Backseat Designers, henceforth known as the Blue Cup Duels podcast. I'm your host, Francisco Gonzalez, and with me as always...
Hello, I am Ben Chandler, also known as Ben304. How are you, Francisco?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm a little sad to hear about the passing of Frederick and Gareth and Trolls, the former hosts of the Backseat Designers podcast. I mean, it's pretty tragic, but I
sad news.
Yeah, sad news, but I want to make it very clear that we had absolutely nothing to do with it.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. How about you? How are you doing? How do you feel about this tragic turn of events?
I mean, I feel like it's a great loss for the adventure game community as we knew it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how we'll recover going forth, but I do feel like the podcast will only go from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Now that we're here.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we run a slightly different ship. I mean, we don't have as many jokes about pedophilia and genitalia as they do, but yeah. Don't worry. Well, you can all be sure that the Blue Cup Tools podcast will carry on the torch, and we'll bring you an adventure game podcast that you can actually enjoy.
Maybe we could actually make a podcast that's informative, and funny, and maybe make it, apparent that it's done by two people that look really good in sunglasses.
You're absolutely right. You're right. So yeah, let's not be sad, because I mean, why should we be sad about the loss of those freewheeling jerks? After all, let's rejoice. Because our time has finally come.
And importantly, it wasn't us.
That's right. We had absolutely nothing to do with their deaths.
No more for today.